Hello everyone. Welcome to the Spatial Data webinar series. Today we will be discussing our on-premise data products in our webinar, Discover Data for On-Premise Deployment. We're glad you can join us today, and we do have a full hour ahead of us scheduled. I am Carissa Schrader, and I work here in Esri in our Data Product Marketing Department. I'm also joined here with three product managers who bring with them their experience in our on-premise products and particularly in our data and location services offerings. I have Robert Jensen.
Hello, everyone.
Sarah Osborne.
Hello there.
And Helen Brown.
Hello.
I'm sure they're all excited to share with you their knowledge, and we're happy to have you all here today as well. This webinar will be recorded and shared with you. For our agenda, first we want to start things off with sharing about all of our data and location services offerings. We believe this is important to talk about both our online and on-premise to kick things off so that you can see our full breadth of offerings here at Esri. Next, we'll take a look at why on-premise. And I'll have the group kind of chime in and help to have that discussion and kick things off. Additionally, we'll then do an on-premise deep dive. And so we'll look at each individual product, including our World Geocoder. We'll look at our Data Appliance, StreetMap Premium, and Business Analyst. And we'll also save time for questions at the end. Please feel free to utilize the chat window to ask any questions of our team, and we will do our best to answer them as time allows. Now let's move on to talk about our full data offering. As you can see, Esri does offer a wide variety of products that can help to meet your data needs as you are working with ArcGIS software. This includes our Basemaps and imagery, our demographics, business, and behavioral data, as well as our environmental data, which can often be found in Living Atlas or through our live feeds. We also have movement data offerings and are increasing our offerings in POIs and places data as well. We're always receptive to hearing your needs for data. So if at any time you recognize a gap, I'd love to hear from you so that we can better serve your needs and help you to do your jobs more efficiently. Additionally, we have our location services offerings. This includes geocoding, geo-enrichment, and routing. And we'll hear more about those later today, but I did want to make sure that we call out this breadth of offerings so that you can see how they all work together. Now, let's get down to the question why everyone's here today. Why on-premise data? And I'd love if, Rob, you can share for me with your experience why you believe someone would want to use on-premise data.
Sure, Carissa. The most common need is that I work in an industry that has regulations either from the federal government or from an agency that says I need to keep my data internal to my business behind my firewall in order to do my business.
Very good. And I love that you call out the firewall because I think that's often our first thought when we think of on-premise, but I know there's other reasons why. And Sarah, would you like to share?
Sure, Carissa. Common theme I'm here is that customers like to pay a one-time yearly fee. It's a known expense that they can plan for. It can also be more cost-effective if you're doing a lot of geocoding, routing, or geo-enrichment.
I know you have plans to talk more about that later today, so I can't wait to hear more about how it can be more cost-effective. I think that, you know, as we consider our integration with GIS, cost always is a factor, and we're always trying to think of how can we not just be more efficient with data, but how can we also be more cost-effective for the bottom line. So I'm really excited, as I said, to hear more about that later today. Helen, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, sure. As you can imagine, for clients who have national coverage or multiple departments working on different files, thus having a single source of truth for collaboration across the different team members is really, really powerful. very efficient and it's very scalable.
Yeah, we know here at Esri, collaboration is a huge part of our job. And even the picture we see here on the screen, being able to work together and share out data is so important. So having the collaboration, as well as other items I'd like to call out, global accuracy, quick deployment, as well as accessibility. Those are also other great reasons to choose on-premise data. So thank you all for that. Now, we put this together so we can try and describe to you what you may know online and how to use it on-prem. So for Basemaps, we associate this with our ArcGIS Data Appliance project, and this would be Robert Johnson. We'll be talking about this later today. For geocoding, there's two options. We can use our ArcGIS World Geocoder. We also could use ArcGIS StreetMap Premium for this. Now, StreetMap Premium also comes with the option to do routing and network analysis. So there are two different options, and we'll talk about why you would choose each different option. And last but not least, there's also geo-enrichment and demographics, and that can be done through our ArcGIS Business Analyst. What I'd like to share with the group listening in today is that all of these products working together really can help your organization come to life. So let's really deep dive now into each one of these products. And as I said, we'll start off with Basemaps and talk a little bit about Data Appliance with Robert Johnson.
Thank you, Krista. So Basemaps is sort of the bread and butter of what Esri offers to everyone. Basemaps is what provides content and context to your data. So when you put your data on top of a base map, you can see where things are, you can see what is around your data. And Esri has many base maps, raster base maps, we also have vector base maps, there's lots of imagery. So we feel like we provide a good solid base for you to enrich your data.
Can you share with me, Robert, how many base map styles we have?
Yes, I can, Chris. That's a great question. We have 17 different raster base maps, including imagery. And for vector base maps, we have 50 different styles. That's 50. And you can see on our screen here that in the Boston area, we've used the same underlying data, but make it look 6 different ways. We think that's a very powerful capability of the ArcGIS platform.
I agree. I think it's really about the style of the maps and how, depending on the project and the message you're trying to get across, you can choose a different style, and exactly. That's really the beauty of it. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's transition over to the ArcGIS Data Appliance. As Krista mentioned earlier, this is the in-house or on-premises version of our Esri base maps. So taking all that rich content, you can build your own applications for your coworkers, for your business. Because it's behind your firewall, things are secure. The services you build are accessible only to people that you want to have grant access to. And last but not least, you can publish and share lots of content that integrates Esri's base maps with your data. So you might be asking yourself, wow, Rob, that sounds fantastic. Tell me more about the benefits of this ArcGIS Data Appliance. First and foremost, because it's behind your firewall, you control the access within your business. Who gets to see it? How often can they see it? But even more powerful is the fact that you can take this content and then put it onto your mobile devices so that your field workers can go out into the real world, do their business, and remaining offline. And starting with our last release of the Data Appliance, we've now included our vector-based maps. So there's even more rich content available in the ArcGIS Data Appliance.
I think the vector-based maps are a great addition now that people can go in and again have that same great experience as they were able to online. Now they're able to do it on the Data Appliance. That's
a great point. So you can think of it as what I can see in online, can I now see offline? Yeah. So I want to talk about a use case for the ArcGIS Data Appliance. So as we're all too painfully aware, sometimes there are disasters in the world. There's too much rain and there's flooding, or there's a hurricane, or there's a really bad fire. During these moments, having guaranteed access to the internet is not always a thing. It's not always possible. So first responders, those who are in charge of organizing all the emergency response, it's great to know that I have access to all the base maps and my own data, and I can deploy that into the field anywhere. I can throw it in the back of my truck and off I go. This and the ArcGIS Data Appliance empowers you in those real moments of crisis to be able to come through for everyone else who is depending on you as that single source of truth, as Helen mentioned earlier. It really helps you and your field workers and all your sort of volunteers to know that we have access to the data that we need to have to handle this unfortunate event.
Yeah, I think these pictures that were chosen kind of speak to those events, as you say, and whether that be a hurricane or maybe an ice storm that takes power out for multiple days, we still have to be able to dispatch and be able to communicate with our field workers at any time. Yeah. So thank you, Rob, for that.
You're very welcome.
Well, I'm going to keep you on the line because I enjoy your company. And I'd love to hear more about geocoding.
Excellent, yes. Let's talk about geocoding in terms of what is geocoding. Simply put, it's trying to match an address to a coordinate, or in the opposite direction, I have a coordinate and I would like to know what is the address at that particular place. And we can do this one at a time, or we can do this in bulk. So we said, so if I have an address, we think of that as GeoSearch. Tell me where this XY location is. Reverse geocoding is I know where the XY is, or I can right click on the map. I want you to tell me what is the address here.
Can you give me a good example, Rob, of why someone would use a single geocode versus a batch geocode?
Sure. A really common experience that I think we all have is we go to a company's website and we say, tell me where is the nearest branch or the nearest ATM or the nearest store. So when you're doing those one-off searches, that's the single use case. But if I'm a business and I want to geocode all of my potential customers, that could be thousands or millions of records, that's where we go into that sort of bulk mode or doing batch geocoding.
And when someone does geocode, where do the geocodes appear on the map?
I'm happy to say that Esri can put the response at 3 different places. Ideally, it'll go onto the rooftop of the building, or it can go to the delivery location, which is the curbside. And in the absence, if there's no building at that particular location, we will give you the street address. So Esri has the powerful capability to provide at least 3 different responses to your geocoding requests.
Would you want to tell me why someone would use a roof geocode rather than using a street? Like, what would be the specific use cases?
Yes. So if my primary business is delivering things, I need to know where can my vehicle pull up to the side of the house. If I am more interested in delivering mail or just finding out where is this building on a property, and that's more important. So those are the sort of common use cases.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
So the ArcGIS World Geocoder. If your business needs span the entire globe, this is the product for you in terms of I need to do geocoding across the world. I have addresses in multiple countries. And this is proprietary information to me for where my customers are at. Then you put this behind your firewall, and you have this incredible capability to do everything you can see in ArcGIS Online with geocoding you can now do behind your firewall.
And does this include collaboration access? How many people can access this?
Yes, this is one of the great upsides of the World Geocoders, that you can do unlimited geocoding and you have access to all the people that work for your business. So you can have multiple people working, doing geocoding at the very same time. So you can in a sense, scale up.
Scale up. I love that.
So the benefits are, You have, just like you do in online, there is a single locator or single service endpoint for you to work with. As Sarah talked about earlier, this is a one-time fixed cost. Going in that for this year, I'm paying this much to do geocoding. And that's really helpful when you have those moments where you may be geocoding the same address multiple times or for multiple different purposes. Be nice to know that, hey, I paid once, but I can use many times. And said earlier, you can control who has access to it or who has availability, and you can determine what is the response time for when I submit requests. Is it I need to have it right now, or is it within the next few seconds or the next few days?
I think you make a very good point. Boundaries are always changing. And so being able to read geocode, as you said, sometimes it happens multiple times in one year. Having that cost fix really is one of the main benefits I see in this product.
Yeah.
And I also like how it adds, it just adds that scalability, as you said. I just want to hit that one more time before we move back on.
So let's talk about a use case for the World Geocoder. Commonly, this is people that, again, said multinational companies that have an interest in many countries around the world. So a good example is an insurance company. I have a list of policyholders. They live in many places. In the event of a natural disaster, I need to find out, is my policyholder living in the flood zone? Are they close to a fire or an earthquake? How can I dispatch my workers out into the field to go provide assistance to my policyholders? And once I know where people are, I can then cross-check with more analytical capabilities that I have.
Thank you, Rob. We're going to continue with routing and network analysis.
That's right. You can't get rid of me. I will continue to be the one talking. So fairly quick, routing and network analysis covers 6 different solvers, 6 different services, or 6 different solutions, if you will. Questions about how do I go from point A to point B? What sort of vehicle can I take to get there? Where should I build my business? How many people live within a 10-minute drive of my business? These are kind of these spatial questions that involve a transportation aspect to it. And this is what network analysis covers. And we talked about earlier, there's lots of global solutions like the Data Appliance and the World Geocoder. For routing and network tools, we often find that people don't drive their car from one continent to another. So we provide this capabilities on a regional basis. And one of those products is StreetMap Premium. And I'll now hand this over to Sarah Osborne.
Thanks, Rob. So I'll talk a little bit about ArcGIS StreetMap Premium. And as Rob mentioned, it has a geocoding and routing capability as well. So it's our on-premises solution for map display, geocoding, and routing.
And the benefits, Sarah?
Right, so StreetMap Premium, and these are similar benefits to our other products, on-premises products, and online for that matter. They're ready to use. That's a big one. The maps, the locators, and the network have been prepared to work with ArcGIS products. If you've ever tried to manage road and address data sets, this can be a big time saver to have it ready to use. It's also an authoritative data set. We've selected the most up-to-date reference data from sources such as commercial data from here, but we also have data from the community and government providers. And for the locators, we also work closely with our international distributors and partners for countries outside the US. This is important because they have the local knowledge of sometimes very complex addressing systems. So this isn't just a benefit for StreetMap Premium, but also in the World Geocoder and our online geocoding service. StreetMap Premium, you can choose your geography. So one of the nice things is that you can license just the geography you need. It can make a much better price point. You can license at the continental level, but you can also license a country, or if you're in the US or Canada, you can license at the state or province level. And another benefit is that StreetMap Premium is secure. It can be deployed to meet all your IT requirements, security, authentication, privacy. One thing I'd like to point out is because it's in-house, StreetMap Premium meets HIPAA requirements, and that's really important for our health industry. So some use cases. First, we have a large contingent of users who license a geocoding only option. For example, large commercial organizations that do so much geocoding that it's not practical for them to do it online. And as I mentioned earlier, because StreetMap Premium meets HIPAA requirements, we have a number of customers in the health and human services sector. I was talking recently to a couple of state public health agencies, and they geocode all the time for different projects, different analyses they're doing. One of them mentioned was where are kids living who are getting immunized, and where are kids who are not getting immunized, and based on that, can we do some kind of outreach program? Another type of question they mentioned was, where are the food deserts and where are the people in relation to these food deserts? So those are typical types of use cases. We also have customers who do need routing and network analysis capabilities within their own systems. Some examples are organizations that do fleet management, and they need to create a list of optimized routes every day. And this could be for hundreds of vehicles going out. We also have other organizations that need to solve more complex problems that require a street network. I talked recently to a regional transportation authority, and they were doing a couple of interesting analyses. One was to look at accessibility to job zones by creating transit access scores. And to do this, they needed to know, they needed to have the road network, and they needed to have road speeds, and they needed to be able to do drive time analysis. And the same organization, they wanted to do modeling to see what the impact of removing a parking garage might be. And they did some routing and origin destination analysis. And based on this analysis, they were actually able to remove the garage and still improve efficiency.
I think it really does come down to efficiency, right, for this specific type of use. And I love how you demonstrated a value among many industries, not just one here. Particularly a healthcare one really stuck out to me. So thank you, Sarah, for sharing that. Additionally, sometimes people need to build custom roads. Would you mind sharing more about that?
Sure. So custom roads, it's a version of StreetMap Premium that allows an organization to add their own private roads to a network. The workflow is you add in your roads, such as in other linear features. It could be alleyways, things like that. Then you recreate the network, and once the network is updated, you can route seamlessly between the commercial and your own road segments. And I'd say the most common use case is to use this network in ArcGIS field apps. And there's one thing I'd like to point out. The ArcGIS field apps are able to use the data in an offline capacity. Rob had alluded to that with the Data Appliance, but with custom roads and StreetMap Premium, we create mobile map packages, and these can be used inside of the field applications. It includes a map and offline capability to geocode and route. So this is really popular with organizations that have lots of field workers.
could you share more specific examples with us on which organizations would use custom roads?
Sure. So I see, it's a lot of organizations who have large field operations. So think oil and gas or forestry companies, and they have miles and miles of their own roads. And you think about an oil company, they may have hundreds of wells and facilities located down private dirt roads that need regular visits. So they need to be able to route to those points. Custom roads isn't just used in rural areas. Another example is, say, a solid waste company in town, and they need to add alleyways and pickup points within a parking lot where all the trash bins are. And that's just information that's not in a commercial network often.
I wanted to bring it back to this picture on the screen with this open road. And I think we often forget that there are large patches of land that are private that are still being used. So when we think about the oil fields, for example, it's good for that day-to-day. Also thinking about what Rob had shared, when you're deploying people out in a case of an emergency situation, we have to be able to know where within that property people are located at any given time. So being able to develop the custom roads and have them available in the ArcGIS is incredibly, it helps a lot of our customers stay successful, but also stay safe. So thank you, Sarah, for that information. Now let's move over to demographics and business data. And this is where we're going to be talking more on from the business analyst perspective. And we have Helen here, who is our business product manager for business analysts, and she'll share more about that.
So thank you, Carissa. Business analysis is powerful because it builds on the data that Sarah was mentioning and then helps you create maps and then layers on the analytical tools that Rob went into. It already has, it uses geocoding, network analysis, and geo-enrichment to give you insights and reports and infographics that allows you to share that consumable information with your stakeholders, and then so that your business can make decisions on growing your business, as well as seeing why you're being successful and who you're being successful with. And so these are some examples of the analysis that you can do. It's really powerful, especially in being able to cite which areas could I be very successful in. And these are some examples of the maps that you can see. It helps you highlight the areas that uses the variables that come with the software and helps you rank such sites so that you can weigh the sites differently based on the variables that matter to you. And here's an example of a report that you can create to aggregate that data and to be able to visualize the analysis, to be able to present this information with your internal and external stakeholders. And ultimately, it becomes a tool that really sets you up for success for future decisions. These are some industries that have been very successful in utilizing business analysts. As you can imagine, some of the use cases that I can highlight for you here include, especially for on-prem solutions, include retail, health, and finances. So for clients who have proprietary data and mostly that they cannot share on the cloud, it's very important that you can take that data and analyze it within your own tool, within your own software. So if you have, for instance, patient data if you're in the health industry, or client data if you're in retail or real estate business, then you can see where you are currently being successful. And what's mostly, especially helpful in business analysts, because you have the data that you may not currently have, you can append the data with the data that Esri provides. And with that, you gain deeper insight into why who you are being successful with, why you are being successful, and then you can see how much of that market have you penetrated. and you can better understand and see the areas that you can grow into. Where are the areas that are similar to the areas that I'm already being successful in, so that you can, actually pose new locations for the future. It's also helpful when you are working with boundaries. Let's say you have sales areas for each of your franchises or your branch offices. You can then see where your competitors are located, and you can see the growth projections or even sales projections of different businesses that are surrounding your locations, so that you can adjust those boundaries accordingly, or as your key insights change and new variables come up for you, you can also balance your territory so that they're better prepared for the future growth and your changing clients.
Thank you, Helen. I wanted to know why I would choose on-prem business analyst versus online. Can you share a little bit more for maybe like specifically the health or retail industry, why someone would select that?
Yes, so a lot of our clients come with, as I mentioned, proprietary data, or for health or finances or regulations, such as HIPAA, for instance, for health. You need to have your data, protected at rest, in transition, or in removal. So having your own data behind the firewall allows you to really control how it's being stored, how it's being analyzed, and the exposure of it. And then even at removal, I believe a lot of our European clients, for instance, GDPR, not only is data valuable, but the way that you treat your data should be really valued as well. So our on-prem solutions allows you to do that in a very compliant manner.
Thank you. Yeah, I think protecting the personal identifiable information, or PII, is incredibly important. So keeping that, on-prem or behind your own firewall is, again, another way of protecting your customer or your client. It helps them to trust you, as just as we want our customers to trust in Esri. We know that our customers want to trust in them. So thank you for sharing that. I also wanted to point out those infographics, the reports that you shared. It's another great way for collaboration. We're able to speak to many individuals by offering a report or infographic that can quickly identify the information and the message that we want to convey. So again, business analyst is a great way for demographics as well as for our geo enrichment as well. Thank you, Helen. Now, that wraps up our individual product cases. And with that, I wanted to just once again kind of recap, why on-premise data. And I think our teams did a very nice job of sharing with us, we want to be able to protect our customers. We want to be able to protect our workers. And often that means that we have to do extra measures to do that. And the on-premise data products can help us to map that custom road or provide those base maps in times of emergency. Also, it keeps us secure behind our firewalls and can help us to boost our collaboration as well as our global accuracy, among other items as well. So we did have a question come in, and it was very specific to an agency looking at the number of branches they had and how would they know whether or not which geocoding to use and what would be right for them. You listening on the call, I'll reach out to you directly so we can figure out, exactly what you're looking for and do a very specific solution for you. But I do think you bring up a very good question that I wanted to more publicly bring out to the group, and that is, for geocoding, how do I know whether to purchase World Geocoder or StreetMap Premium for geocoding?
I will chime in first. I guess you could think of it as, if my addresses are around the world or in more than one country, then I should look into the World Geocoder. If I'm within one country or one state or province, then StreetMap Premium is a more logical place to start with. It's something about, where do I need to do my geocoding and how much geocoding do I need to do? And the products then scale up and down to meet your needs.
Okay. And the specific product pages kind of dive more into them on the web, correct? And then
great point.
And then and then always we have our account managers here to help to answer those questions and really figure it out. So for more specific use cases, just to make sure everyone's unique and everyone can benefit from different solutions. On our end, we do a very good job of updating often. It's one of our goals here at Esri is always to stay up to date and always to put the best data out into the market. Another question that came in is how often are the products updated? I know that differs for each one, but I was hoping perhaps you all wouldn't mind talking about that really briefly.
Well, I can chime in for StreetMap Premium. In the US, we have a release 4 times a year, and in Europe, twice a year, and then the other regions of the world, we do it once a year.
For the World Geocoder, that is updated twice a year, and the ArcGIS Data Appliance is updated once per year.
And for ArcGIS Business Analyst, we do the on-prem Pro solutions twice a year and the on-prem web app solutions 4 times a year.
Thank you. It all ranges, but it's good to have that question answered to help our customers as well. So I want to thank you all for your time today, as well as share with the group that if there's any lingering questions that we can help you with, please feel free to reach out to our group. We're always available to answer your questions, whether it is about specifically on-premise data, or if you are looking for more specific data questions, we're also able to help you. And I want to encourage you, as I noted at the beginning, if you are noticing that you are looking for certain data sets and you wanted to share that with our group, please feel free to contact us as well. We're always here to help you and always here to listen. As a reminder, in the chat, I had dropped a survey, so if you do have time, please fill that out. It can help us to better understand your needs and also help us to decide what's next in terms of webinars. We are scheduled on November 12th to have our data partner, Spatial AI, join us. We will be covering social media data, and this is currently available in our ArcGIS Marketplace. So the webinar, Esri and Spatial AI, Revealing Powerful Insights from Geosocial Data, will take place on November 12th at 10 a.m. Pacific. To learn more about that, I encourage you to head to our Spatial Data webinar page. There you will also find recordings of all of our previous spatial data webinars from this past year. So there is a good slew of them there for you to participate in and follow along. I want to thank you all for your time today, and I also want to thank our participants here who joined me with their smiling faces. And we hope to see you next time, and until then, happy mapping.